But if I hold down and then I click tab, watch it pops up for like a second. I think it's weird. Every time I was
there is a, let's see.
because I tried doing changing the mark. But there's nothing here. So like, just stop using here. Learn how to use the power and look it up on. Yeah. In the meeting, maybe just get closer.
Yes. For Zoom. Yeah, that's an idea. They can get on the laptop. Right there, 992.
Not off.
8856 8088. Okay, you're good to go. All right. All right. So, that not work or here? I really just typed install Eagle, and that brings up your okay. Result right there. And it takes a while to load. Okay, so this does work for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So just scroll down until you find your operating system, follow the download link, and the steps are really straightforward. It's just like a download and type setup. Who still needs to install it so I don't go too quick? Like Dr. Schultz said, seriously, guys, raise your hand because I don't mind going slow. I'm here until 5. Last time we got it done at like 4:45, and that was with a bunch of questions and like that. So don't feel like we can't ask questions. There's plenty of time. Did anybody still need to install it that hasn't installed it? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So steps again. Search for install Eagle. It's the first link. Scroll down. You'll find the appropriate page, the download page, and this first one actually will take you to the option for all 3. So you can choose whether you want a Windows, a Mac, or a Linux. Yeah, download, follow the instructions, straightforward. All right. Anybody still trying to get it done that wants to? No? Okay, a couple people in the back. All right. Any general questions before we get started, I guess? So Eagle is a PCB design software. I wish it was an acronym. It might have been forever ago, but now it just sounds cool. So, yeah. Question.
Once we have the PCB designed, we just take it to the shop and then we give them our file or whatever. And then
Folks, let's talk about that while we're waiting for people to finish signing up. Okay, so you're going to go to ete.byu.edu, just and you're going to go to the Experiential Learning Center and Project Requests. So at the end, I'll show you how to generate the processing files that we need in the shop to make this for you. You hit this button, it'll take you to a form, you fill it out, it will email you, and you respond to that email with your project file, if that makes sense. All right. Okay. Anybody else who still is trying to get there? Okay, while you guys are finishing up, let's go ahead and open it up. So it should leave you with, oops, should leave you with your desktop icon. Actually, oh, that's one more thing we could do while we wait. Let's talk about the circuit that we're doing today. I can't find Joe's stylus. So I'm just going to be really fancy here. Use my phone. And we're just going to talk about what we have. All right, okay, so we're going to start out with a simple op amp. We're going to use the LM358 just because it's a single rail. We don't need double rail for this application. It's a dual inline So it has 2 op amps in the package, and it matches the spec that Dr. Schultz wants for this project. We're going to set it up with a comparator above it, so we have our V plus or V minus, and then the output of the op amp is going to go to a transistor, VT. There's our V out, and we're going to use the 2N3904 package. So this is almost everything we need to know. This is everything I knew when I first started, and I made a mistake. I should have talked to Dr. Schultz more about this. We needed a high current line or a high current capacity between VN or V plus and V minus of about 2 amps. It's not huge. It happened to work with the specs that I used, but we want to make those traces short. It's just important to understand that, because we have this high current going between those two, we want to keep those traces short, and we want to make sure that that trace width is thick enough. To determine that, just go on Google, search up trace width calculator. There are a million options on there, and that should do it for you.
The other thing on the trace width, if the current needs to be higher, you can keep the trace width smaller and then just put extra solder along it. So they just solder the line to make it thicker, and that's usually good. So
I think that depends on if your trace is exposed or not. Yeah. Most traces aren't anymore.
but these ones will be.
Yes, these ones will be. Yes. We haven't gotten started mass yet. We're working on it. Okay, so any questions about the circuit before we dive in? We'll go back to it to refer to it, so don't feel like you need to memorize it, but any general questions? No? Bunch of board looks cool. Okay. All right, let's go back to Eagle. Okay, so we're going to fire it up. I am a huge fan of revision control and like keeping things organized from the get-go. So once this fires up, I'm going to make a new project in here, and I'm going to call it current monitor. And mine is Rev 2 because I've already done this 3 times. Yes, I know it's 0 index. Do me, whatever. Okay, and then don't actually see me. I can't afford that. Okay, we're going to go to schematic, and we're going to lay out the basic schematic that we just had, because paint only goes so far. Typically, people want something a little more professional. All right, so one of the really nice things about Eagle, it has a command line interface, a graphic interface. So if you're a Windows person or a Linux person, or if you're a Mac person, you can use either, and it works. So we're going to start by editing our grid. So that's up here, or you can just type in grid, if you can spell right. And we're just going to click display because we like this 0.1 inch and 0.01 inch. Oh, question, what's that?
Tell me how you got from the project.
Yes. Okay, so on the project, I right-clicked and I said new schematic. Good question. Anybody else? Any other questions?
So I have new folder and new project.
All right, so once you make your new project, then right-click on the project and there could be a new option.
It's like new. I don't have that.
Did you make a new project yet?
Did.
Click on the dot thingy.
Oh, yeah, it has to be an active project. Yeah, so the little dot next to it, it's kind of hard to see. If it's green, it means it's your active project. Because if you're on your inactive one, it won't let me make a new one. It has to be your active project. So just click the little dot next to it, and that activates your project. Good catch. Good catch. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're going to go to our schematic. Cool. Yeah, close the other one. All right. Okay, so we're going to our grid, and we're going to display it. Okay, so back to this 0.1 inch. That's the standard pin spacing for most components. So we're just going to use that. Question? Yeah.
So when you go to like the new schematic, what
am I trying to do with the schematic?
what are you doing right now?
So right now, we're taking this idea that we have here, and we're turning it into a schematic. So when you want to share this design with another engineer on our team, or the manufacturing plant, or our boss, we have a clean schematic that looks a lot better than this that we can share with them. So this is more visual, but it also allows us to set up the traces on our board to make sure that everything is connected where it should be. So it just kind of helps us and helps other people. Okay, so we have this nice grid on here, and then we're going to add, which is, we're going to add parts. So it's either over here or you can just type add. going to pull up our library of available components. All right, so you can see there's a bunch of libraries in here. I don't use all of them. I would just leave them though, because you never know. The search key is really great, actually, and asterisks are your friend. They act as wildcards. So we're going to search for frame. Again, just to make this clean and easy to understand. Question. How did I get there? So I typed in add, or you can use add part, which is over here. Over there. Yep. Yeah, Alejandro, what's up?
What was the grid again?
The what?
The grid?
The grid? Oh, the grid was 0.1 inch. So it's just the standard grid. So I just hit display on what I did. So our grid is on, we're going to our frame. Okay, so asterisks act as wildcards. That means like if I don't know how to spell it exactly, or I don't know what exactly I'm looking for, it'll still find my parts for me. This is really important later on, but for now, just realize that wildcards are important. Okay, so I'm going to select my landscape A-frame. So this is A-size sheet of paper, landscape mode. If I go too fast, guys, seriously raise your hands. If I go too slow, also let me know. I want to try and match everybody. It's just hard teaching 30 people at the same time. Okay, we got this little anchor point right next to my cursor. So that's our origin. So we're just going to keep a frame there and hit escape. Escape is your friend. You will use it all the time while you're working in invoke. So if you're ever confused, you try and do something and it doesn't work, just hit escape a bunch of times and it'll take you to the basic menu. Question.
Sorry, I missed how you got the frame stuff.
The frame. So we add a part, and in the search, I type asterisk, frame, asterisk, and it pops up all of these options. And I want the size frame for landscape paper. Does that help? All right, Ivan, are you available to help with some of these questions? It looks like we're having some issues. Avi, is that you?
Yeah, that's me, sorry.
All right, no, you're good. All right, any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, cool. Okay, so we got our frame. I'm gonna hit escape a bunch of times, going back. You can see it's kind of nice. At first you're like, yeah, this isn't really helpful, but if we save it, I'm gonna call this current monitor. Yay, current monitor schematic. You notice it updates that, which is kind of nice for revision control. It makes things clean and easy to use, and easy to remember the last time you saved it. So, all right, now going back to or referencing our schematic that we have here, we're going to start building stuff. So the first thing we need is our LM358. So we're just going to type in LM358, asterisks on both sides. And if you notice, we have a couple of different options here. By the way, if you noticed, I keep saying that. By the way, you do need to open up the menus to see the parts that are inside them. So you can see I type in LM358 in my search key, and that brings up a couple of options plus a submenu. I'm going to open up that submenu, and inside here we have 3 different packages, and 2 above that as well. So the shop carries through whole components, so that's what we're going to look for. And if you look over here, we have surface mount components. You can tell because there's no hole next to that pad. They also have a nice convenient little package representation next to it. So we don't want either of those. We don't want that one. We don't want that one. This one will definitely work. Okay, so standard 358, we got our dual op amps right here and here. And all our pins are defined. Okay, so this is the one we're going to use. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to zoom in so we can see what's going on. We're going to click it once, and click it twice, and then we're going to hit escape twice. That takes us back out of our add menu. Question.
Yeah, sorry. Can you show us, so I have asterisk LM358 asterisks, but I had different options in you. I'm not sure.
All right.
Oh, I don't.
358. Yeah, did you use the drop down? Ivan, can you help with this?
Here, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Anybody else struggling to find that?
Yeah.
A lot of people. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's make sure that we have that library installed. Okay, let's go to Open Library Manager. This right here. in available, there are a lot of libraries that you can download. Well, we want specifically.
So I would like to get a ladder to fix. Is that gonna be too much of a distraction or do you want to? I don't want to interrupt.
Does that TV still work? Okay, does that TV still not work? All right, guys in the back quarter panel that don't have a TV, do you guys want to move or do you guys want to have it? Or are you guys good with the projector?
I'm on Zoom. Yeah, I jumped the meeting so I can see it.
Okay, it sounds like we're good.
We'll get that fixed for next.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try. Sorry about that. All right, I'll probably like actually face you guys instead of facing the wall. Okay, so we're in our library manager in available. We're gonna search for linear. And this normally would show up for me, but I already have it installed. You guys see that library there?
I see.
I'll see linear.
See linear, that's close. If you check right next to it, you should see a linear. Available? Yes, in available. Good question. Questions? Yeah.
I just see two linears. I see linear and after my.
Questions behind as well. All right, let's take a quick pause and we'll go around and help.
No, I.
Library. Maybe the project yet or the.
Oh, that's a really good question. Are you guys searching for LM as in Lima Mike 358, not LN as in Lima November? It's Lima Mike. Make sure you guys are searching for the right part. That's my fault. Sorry. Lima Mike 358. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I see linear.
No,
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 you don't. Yeah, because I already found it.
Yeah, you're good. Okay.
Is that the one that's, is it okay in design?
Yeah, totally fine. No, you're good. Numbers are on the side. Numbers are on the side. Yeah. Oh, I see.
And then it'll.
Questions? Sorry about that. I should have been more clear. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
yeah.
see.
All right. Any other questions? Amy, did you get it?
Yes.
All right, excellent. All right, any other question? Oh, yes, by the way, guys, you will want a mouse for this. So go ahead and unplug the mouse in front of you. Like trying to do Eagle without a mouse is impossible. Just get the mouse in front of you. We're borrowing it, we're not stealing. We're against the honor code. Comments. All right, questions?
I went to the. I need You make an Autodesk manager? Yeah. Where? Yes. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, something I could recommend is
I have to link.
LM.
Before we move on, open up at the front.
So I'm trying to get the LM. I think I downloaded the library.
Okay.
And then
This one? Yeah.
LM.
We added some and then just did free.
All right, any other questions? One more and then we'll go back. What's up? So click on one of them. I love it, but that's a surface mount.
No valid assets have been.
No.
So like.
Oh, it's because you need to expand the something. So that's a surface mount.
And I like already did that.
That's okay. Awesome.
Whoops. All right, okay, yeah, that's an excellent point. Don't forget, like I said, you gotta expand that submenu. In the back, Ivan, can you grab that?
I made it.
All righty, any other big questions before we move on? Okay, so we search for LM358, we expand our submenu, and we go down until we find the through hole package. That's the one we're looking for. Okay, any other questions? No? All right, cool, let's move on. Okay, so we load that part, oh, whoops. Add, select the part, hit OK. We're gonna place 1, we're gonna place 2, and then we're gonna hit escape because we don't want any others. If you notice, we have pins 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. So we're missing pins 4 and 8. That's our ground and our VCC. To get that, we need to use the invoke command. So you can either type invoke, or you can click the graphic interface. Yeah, go for it. Okay. This little plus sign right there isn't actually a plus, it's an anchor point. To Alejandro's question earlier, if you wanted to move around parts, that's what you grab it by, to move it. So going back to our invoke command, we're going to click that anchor point, and you see we have the A op amp, the B op amp, and our power rail. So we have to specifically request this in the schematic because not everybody wants it, obviously. We're just going to put that over there off to the side because we really don't care about it that much. Okay, any questions about how to get pins 4 and 8? Excellent. Okay, cool. All right, let's move a little faster. So we're. Yes, I'll try and be a little louder. Okay. So, by the way, Control Z does work on Eagle. Also your friend. So escape, Control Z, Control C, Control V, all those for the most part work. Okay, so we have pins 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, but we need pin 4 and 8. So we're going to use our invoke command. How about this? Hi, dude. All right, is this better?
Much better.
Hey, look at that. All right, cool. All right, we're going to use our invoke command. I guess we're invoking invoke. Try to keep the puns to a minimum. Okay, so we're going to click on the anchor point right here. And this gives us access to all of the schematic footprints associated with this op amp. So we have our first op amp, our second op amp, and our power rail. That's what we need to request. So we're going to hit OK and put it off to the side down here. And that gives us pins 4 and 8. Just one, because remember this is a dual inline package. So it's 2 op amps, same package, dual inline. That just tells you the footprint. Anyway, okay, so only do it once though. Good question. Okay, any other questions on how to get that dual rail? Or is it the 4 and 8? That's with the invoke command. So invoke. Click the anchor point right here. And we see we have the A op amp, the B op amp, and the power rail. So you can click that, hit OK, and then place it down there. Yep, the third one. Okay, any other questions? Excellent. Okay, let's go a little faster. We're getting the hang of this. Okay, this time we're going to search for our BJT, which is a 2 in, as in November, 2 in tree 9004. And again, we see we have a lot of different options here. Don't forget to expand all your submenus when you're searching for different stuff. The reason why this is important specifically in this case is you notice we have all of these are through-hole packages, which is fine. That's what we carry in the shop. But most of these are offset packages. So you can see those footprints aren't in a line, they're offset from each other. By the way, you can use your arrow keys to scroll between them. I normally do, but you guys can't see when I'm using the keyboard. So, all right, okay, we want the inline package because that's the one the shop carries. Question.
Mine doesn't show the inline package. It only has the 3, and it makes routing way more difficult.
Say again.
Mine doesn't have the inline package.
Should you expand the submenu?
I tried. I can try again.
All right, Ivan, can you go with that?
Do you extend both the submenus?
All right, okay, so we're gonna open up our inline,
So
Oh, not that one. our inline to November tree 904, and place that off to the side, right there.
There's no sub menu. I already checked it.
Okay,
I've already done like,
we're gonna, yeah, questions?
When you said inline, you
and if I
download
fix
the
this,
new
I'm gonna make
operating
everything
system.
way easier.
Yeah, so the footprint, all three
Yeah.
holes are in a line versus the one beneath it or any of the others where they're offset from each other. So the package that the shop carries is the inline. It doesn't make a huge difference, just be aware of what your specific project has access to. So in this case, we have access to the inline, so that's what we're gonna use. All right, okay. So we placed that. Next, we're gonna go with our resistors. We need a lot of these. Oh. Extra S is giving me grief, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And a lot of packages. Okay, I like the RUS package variant. That's just because I like the squiggly lines. Okay, so I searched for resistor here, and it brings up a lot of different options. We have the EU, the US, and this is for like the 74 variants. There are a bunch of different ones. We're gonna go all the way down to RCL, which is resistors, capacitors, and inductors. Is that an I? Yuck. Ugh. All right, okay. We don't want the European variety. We don't want the trim variety. Those are more expensive. We want the US variety. So we're gonna go open up that submenu, and there are a lot of options here. These numbers seem a little confusing, but what they essentially represent, the first four digits, 0204, represent the diameter and the length of your resistor, much like a surface mount device, if you guys are familiar with those. This is not in mils, don't worry, it's not a tiny one. My favorite is the 0207. I feel like that footprint fits the best. If you notice, we have a V here. That's not volts, that's vertical. So these footprints are really close together. That's when you bend one pin straight and the other pin you bend vertically around. It keeps your footprint nice and tiny. In this case, we don't need that. So we're gonna go ahead with the 02077 package. You can use whichever one you want though. And looking back at our schematic, we have 4 resistors. So we have one on pin 3, one on pin 2, and then here's the cool thing, if you right click, it rotates, which is way better than LT Spice, in my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna put one down there. Actually, I'm gonna undo that one. Oh. Okay, so if you hit escape and it disappears, just hit escape a bunch more times, it'll take you back to the main menu, like I said before. So I hit escape one too many times, I hit add to go back into this, and now I have my resistors again. I'm gonna put one for the comparison between the two, and then I'm gonna put one down there. That doesn't make a huge difference, it's just easier for me to think about it, because that's how I've done it the last 4 times in the last week. All right, any questions about how we got here? Any questions? No? Man, I should use a microphone a lot more often. Okay, I'm going to show you guys another cool trick. Box select is your friend. I keep saying that to you, I should say something else. We like box select. We're going to box select, grab that anchor point, and just kind of drag those two things away because it's cluttering up our environment. I'm going to kind of move these just a little bit and zoom out because we're getting a lot of stuff here. Okay, this T1, if you notice, that just stands for transistor 1. If I grab it, do you guys see that thin gray line going between the transistor? So that's the name for that transistor, it's T1. Okay, so I'm just going to put that so it's a little closer, easier to associate, and now we're ready to start laying the wires between these things. I know they should have called it wiring, they didn't for some reason. We're going to use the net command, so just type in net, or it's over here. Question? How do you move stuff? So this small plus sign, sometimes it's hard to see, but that one's right there. You just drag, so right or left click, and it allows you to move it around. Okay, so we're going to turn on our net command, and then it's really simple. We're just going to drag between components, and it allows us to connect our circuit. Okay, if you notice that isn't going the way I want, so I'm going to go this way, and then it's like, oh, that's what he means. It's kind of confusing. A lot of this is just for pure aesthetics. Here's one thing I am going to start doing though. If you notice, the bottom resistor is tied to ground, so I'm just going to leave a little wing there for me to put my ground tag on. I'll talk more about that in a second. Huh? It's net. November Echo Tango. Net. Okay. So I have this thing, but I just want to end it there. If I hit escape once, I'm still in the net mode, you can see, but it disconnected, which allows me to go up, move over here, and tie that down there. Okay, we're basically done. The one thing I'd like to do is I like to add little wings onto those, just like that. Okay, any questions about this so far? Any quick questions? If you guys have long questions, come to the ELC, we'd love to chat.
Does it
Yes.
matter if our like sizing is different than yours?
Totally fine. The schematic is up to you guys. The cleaner you keep it, the easier it is to read later. But really, yeah, it's up to you. Okay, now that we have one of these laid out, I'm going to add some more netting to this guy and this guy. But this one I'm going to leave by himself. You might think I'm forgetting a step, but I'm not. And I'll show you why in just a second. Before we do anything else though, here's something important to notice. You guys see how this one is a little brighter than everything else? That means that it's still selected. I don't want that selected, so I'm just going to hit escape a bunch of times. Again, you like escape, it's great. Okay, we're going to use the name tool, and this allows us to connect things together that we don't necessarily want to draw a line between, but they are connected. For instance, this is ground, right? The bottom resistor coming off of our BJT, but the pin 4 is also ground. So if we type ground for both of those, it's going to say, are you sure you want to connect them? Yes, for sure. And they're connected, even though it doesn't look like it, because they have the same name, they are connected. Any questions? Yeah.
Did you name that using label or?
Oh, name tool. So NAME.
Okay.
It's over here, just underneath net.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I'm going to name right now, though. Although I realized I forgot one more thing. So I'm going to escape out of net name and go back to net because we need our V out right here. Okay, so just referencing our schematic, we have V plus going into our positive rail, V minus going into our negative rail. We have V out coming out here. And then we have ground. All right, so I'm going to draw a giant box around this whole thing and hit Control C, Control V. Hey, look at that. It's super cool. All right. So now, if you notice, that's why I labeled ground, but I didn't label anything else, is because I didn't want those connected to each other. So now I'm going to go back in to name, and I'm going to label everything else. Oh, I almost forgot. Before we do that, before I get distracted. Over here, notice we have our first IC. So it's IC1A and IC1B. Those are both part of the same op amp, or the same package, but they're different op amps. Over here, when we copied it, it was like, oh, hey, he wants a second package. No, we don't. That's a bad idea. So we're going to right click and delete. And you're like, well, now the circuit's incomplete. No, it's not. Oh, crap. Whoops. Control Z. Escape. Just going to drag it over and presto. Now we're done. Okay. Super hacky, but it works. Okay, now we're going to go into the name tool and we're going to go in and we're going to call this one, let's call it V1 plus. And this one we're going to call V1 minus. And this one can be V1 out.
How do you do that? V1 on out, V1 plus?
Why?
How do you do it?
Oh, how? The name tool. So type in name or over here, you can click name. Both of those work. And then you click on it, and this one's going to be V2 plus. This one's going to be V2 minus. Anybody want to guess?
Did you do that for both sides or just the first?
What do you mean both sides?
Okay. That answers my question.
Excellent, cool. And then the last one, VCC. Hey, or you can call it VN, you can call it whatever you want. You are the designer. Okay, now notice down here, it's giving us a nice little reminder. This is not saved. If your computer crashes before you save it, it will disappear forever. It's really sad. It's happened to me once or twice. Just save often. Good idea. All right, we're almost done with our schematic. We only have to do one more part. Is everybody up to this step that wants to be? We're going to take a break for a quick sec and answer any questions. So if you have questions, raise your hand. Ivan and I will go around and answer them unless everybody's there. This is great. Okay, we got one question.
I'm just still naming stuff.
Okay.
How do you do the box select name?
Box select name.
No, how do you do the box?
Oh, box select. Okay, so right now, notice I'm still in the name. You can see because it's highlighted, and if I try and draw a box, it's not gonna let me. So I hit escape a bunch of times, and then you can draw a box. So it's just you hold the right or hold the left click and just drag. Any other questions? Questions?
How do you copy?
Control C, Control V, or you can right click. Right click would probably work too. Does that work? Yes, it does. Right click copy. It doesn't work? All right, any other questions? Ivan, do you remember the word for question into Tagalog? I can't remember it. Tanong? Yeah, there we go. Thanks. Tanong, that's right. Because I was going to say palabras, but that's what I said last time. And I was like, I need another one. Tanong. All right. Yes. There, okay. Is anybody not ready? Raise your hand. Drag. When you hit Control Z, Control V, everything should stay highlighted. So if I wanted to move this around, oh, that's an excellent point. When you box select, everything is highlighted, but you have to click one of the anchor points. Because if I just click somewhere, it's just going to draw another box. So you do box select, and then you grab one of the anchor points, and that lets you drag. Okay, anybody else still waiting? Ivan, if you want to come help up here. Okay, the next part is a bit of a trip. So I want to make sure you guys are all ready for it. All right, we're going to drop that down and go back to our control panel. And in our project, we're going to go to new, and we're going to click library, because we need to make a custom part for this board. Okay, so once you're here, go ahead and raise your hand, just so I know you guys are awake. Okay, once you're at the library, raise your hand. All right, I see like 2 people, and then you guys got tired of making sure that, oh, yes, I can absolutely repeat that. Okay, so we're back to our control panel. We right click on our current project, and we go to new, and we go down to library.
I was trying to save it
How do you do it?
The control panel.
It's a separate window. It should already be open.
Yeah, it's a separate window.
I didn't find it either. I had to. Sorry,
yeah, that was bad of me. I should have specified. Yeah, you do have to navigate over to your control panel.
Thank you.
All right, anybody still trying to get there to your control panel? Okay, and you click on your current project. You go to new, just like we were doing for the schematic, but we go down to library instead.
Good, I'm good.
All right, okay, awesome. We're good. We're in our library. Now we're going to make a symbol for this. Okay, so Dr. Schultz wants you to be able to like cut alligator clips and like solder them onto this so we have easy access to other stuff. So we're going to call the symbol alligator. Yay. All right, okay. So we type we click add symbol, and then we type alligator. And this brings us back to what looks like a blank schematic. But this is a little different. You notice not all the tools are here. The only tool we care about right now is the pin tool. Question? How to get there? Okay, add symbol, and then you type in alligator, whatever you want to call your symbol. Doesn't matter. You can call it pad if you wanted to. Yeah, question?
Do you write there add symbol or do you
Say it one more time.
do you down there?
Okay, cool. Okay, once we're in our alligator or our symbol, we're going to put a pad in, or a pin, sorry, it's pin. So you can type pin or you can click it, either one works. Okay, so you see the green circle next to my cursor? That green circle is where the wire connects. Keep that in mind for later, that's really important. We're going to put that green circle on our origin. And that's it. You hit escape, we're done. We hit save. We need to label it. Oh, we need to label the library. So I'm going to call this library EE446. Just because that makes it easy to find. Okay, now we're in a named library, and we have our symbol, and we're ready for the footprint. Okay, once you guys are ready for the footprint, let me know. Or who's not ready for the footprint?
What was the last thing you did again? Sorry.
I saved the library name. Okay, so we hit save. Question?
So when you put the pen in,
What do we do next? We hit save. And then, here, I'll show you guys. Okay, so I put my pen in the middle, right there. I hit save, and then I click this book. This book takes me back to the library. I don't know why they didn't make it easier. Yes?
use the light tool, right?
No, use the pin tool right here. Pin. As in something you poke with, not as in something you write with. I got pegged for that school for wrong thing. Okay, so click the book. We go back to library. Anybody not ready for the footprint? All right, okay, looks like we're all good. Add footprint. Alligator. Yay. Create a new footprint? Yes, create a new footprint. Okay, we're going to make a pad now. Okay, now this square pad could work. Personally, I think if I was going to solder a wire to this, I want something to solder to. So I'm going to use the offset. You click up here, that gets you offset. All right, we're going to click down there, put that right on our origin. Hit escape. And if you notice, we can right click and look at the properties of this pad. And right now it's set to a 23 mil. That's 23 thousandths of an inch. That's a really small hole. I want to make that bigger, so I'm going to go to the drop down menu and go to the biggest one they have. And that's great. Notice it gets a little bigger. And we're done. We hit save, we click the book, and we go back to our library. Question? Oh, it looks different? That's okay. Oh, did you click new device? Try going back to your library because it looks kind of like a device setting. Another question? I made it 39 and change. That's for the drill. Diameter I left is auto. Huh? Yeah. Excellent. All right. Anybody else stuck? No? I could you help up front? All right. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, we're back in our library. We have a footprint. We have a symbol. We can click both of those and see those off to the side. They look great. Now we're going to make a new device. Same thing. Alligator, or you can call it gator, whatever. Do we want to create a new device? Yes, we want to create a new device. Okay, now we're in our device layout. So we're going to click add part. And look, there's only one part we can add, so this is really easy. We're going to put that back in the crosshair just like that. And hit escape twice, apparently. Then we want to add a package. So right now we only have a schematic in this device. We want to add a physical thing for it, and we only have one physical thing. So we're going to hit OK. Yes, new add local package. All right. But if you notice, we have a little warning here. That's because we haven't connected the schematic to the actual device. So we need to connect it. So we're going to hit connect, and it just so happens there's only one pin and one pad. So we're going to hit connect, and we're done. We hit OK, and we hit save. Okay, who's not here, or who has questions? Yes. Okay, so new add local package, and it'll bring up a menu, and you click alligator because that's the only one, and then you hit OK, and it should not give you that warning message. I already did it once, so yeah. And then you hit connect. Connects over here. Yep. And then we want to attach pin 1 to pin 2. Just right, so they should already be highlighted. So pin 1, pad 1, hit connect, and hit OK. All right, any questions so far? Yeah, in the back.
How did you get the red line in there?
This? Did you create the schematic part yet? Okay, so you click add part over here. Yep. And you just put it in the center. Okay, any other questions? That was a good question. Sorry. I go too fast sometimes and too slow sometimes, so helps out you guys to keep me on track. Any questions? Okay, cool. All right, we're going to save it and go back to our library, and now we have a device. called Alligator that has a schematic and a footprint. We're going to save that one more time, and we're going to close our library. Okay, now we see we have this library here with a footprint and a schematic in one device, but it's grayed out. So we want to click that button. That doesn't deactivate our current project, it just enables that library. Otherwise, it doesn't think it's supposed to use that library. There are so many parts, a lot of times designers will close certain libraries. We're not at that point, so we're just going to enable it. And then up here, do you guys see this library tab? Again, this is just me wanting to be clean. I'm just going to drag that up into my user library directory. Let go. We sure we want to override it? Yes, we'll override it. That's okay. Sorry, you guys shouldn't get that warning. I just got that from yesterday because I named it the same thing. Okay, once you guys have your custom library in your user libraries, who's not there yet? Question, okay, a couple questions.
Yeah, I'm just.
Got it.
All right, question in the back? Say again? Ivan, okay.
When you put it in your custom or in your user libraries, you have to reactivate it.
You might need to. Just double check to make sure it's still active. Right, is anybody not ready for that? Not ready for the next step?
1 second, like 5 seconds.
4, 3, no, just kidding. Okay, other questions? We might take a short break just to answer questions if people have them.
And then drag it
Questions? Alejandro?
on. We're good.
When you have the black background.
Yes?
I don't love the part that you have the black background. Before I made the library.
Oh, before we made the library?
Yeah, you know when you created the alligator?
Yes.
Black background? That's when I go.
Oh, you got, okay.
That was like the footprint, I think.
Yeah, the footprint. Okay, so we go to footprint.
Yeah.
We click pad. And then we want an offset pad. We click it on the center. Can't place it there. So we click it right there, and then we expand our drill up to the highest drill size we can get. We put it there, and then we save it. Okay, once we save it, we go back to our library through the table of contents.
You change the size.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I changed the size to 39. Okay, so we got a footprint, we have our symbol, we add a device. That new device will pop up here with, here, I'll do it one more time real quick. Okay, so we give it a name, Gator. Okay, so this is what comes up. So we add a part. That part is called alligator, or whatever you call your symbol. We're gonna put it right there. And then we hit escape to escape out of it. Now we have a symbol, but we need to have a package. So we go down to new, add local package. So we click that, and we only have one option, so we click it, and we hit OK. Okay, now we have a package, and we have a symbol. We need to connect them. So we're going to hit connect. They're already highlighted. We hit connect there, and we hit OK, and we're good to go. We hit save. We go back to the library. Yeah, what up? Okay, we go back to the library. Now we have 2 devices, but that's okay. Then we close. We save our library. Always save. And then we close it. Then we have to activate our library by clicking the little green dot, and we drag it up to user libraries. All right, is anybody still needing help? All right, okay, let's go to schematic then. Okay, so we just added that custom part. Let's use it. So let's add a part and type in alligator. Hey, look, it's the only thing there. Wow, funny, nobody else named their part alligator. All right, we're going to click it, hit OK. And if you notice, we have this little thing following our cursor around. So remember how I said that green circle was where the mouse was? That's where you want to connect to your wire. So I'm going to right click a couple times and put a pad right there and a pad right there. And I'm going to right click 2 more times and put a pad there. And basically, we're just providing ways to connect to our circuit with alligator clips. What if nothing showed up? Okay, who else has questions? Let's pause for a quick second. Question?
Oh, you need to connect those to the alligator to the tower?
Yes, as well, yes, that's correct. But only one ground, because all three of those grounds are connected.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
We're gonna put one there and one there. A cool way to keep track of things is if you go to your design manager, it should show you what parts we have. Oh, yeah, so the green circle is only when you're creating the part. When you first load that, or when you load the part into your schematic, it doesn't show a green circle. So it's just where we had our mouse. Another way you can check is if you went to net and you hover over it, the green circle shows up on one of those parts. Okay, if you have a part that you don't need, just like we said, hit delete. An easy way to make sure that your part is actually connected where it should be. I've hit escape a bunch of times, so I know I'm not going to delete it. If we drag the anchor point of that, no, wrong anchor point. We drag the anchor point of this pin, you notice the wire follows it. I call this the wiggle test. It's just an easy way to make sure that your part is actually connected to itself, or actually connected where you think it is. Otherwise, you'll get to your board design and you'll be like, there's a pad, but nothing connected to it. No. Classic Anakin Skywalker screen. Any other questions? No? Nobody else? Yeah, question.
So you did connect on the data to
Yes, but only one of them. Yeah, because remember, all three of those are connected. We only need one ground pin now.
if you did
Where do we put the alligator?
You put it on all of the pads. So to answer your question though, if we have multiple ground, if we put it on multiple grounds, it just means that we'll have multiple pads on the actual board itself. So if you want, you can go back and you can delete them. You can right click and hit delete. But I don't have any extras, so just make sure you hit escape afterwards so you don't accidentally delete something.
We put those on the V outs too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Correct. Otherwise, they won't actually be connected. And I know mine are connected because I can do the wiggle test. Hey, look at that. Cool.
How do you do the wiggle test?
You grab the anchor point, so that red X right there, and you drag it around. And if the wire doesn't move, it's not connected.
Yeah, mine are.
Oh, try going to the other side of your pad. Naomi, what's your question?
I think I just have an issue with my library data and filing extension. So I can ask Ivan when he has a minute if that's better. That might be a more specific question.
You sure? All right. I just feel bad because we've got a couple questions. All right, let's take a quick break just for a second. We'll answer some questions. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Looks like it.
It used to be Untitled, and then I named it.
Let's right click it. Rename. Good question. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Questions? I saw a hand in the back. Did that get answered? Maybe? Please don't care. Used to that. What most people say when I describe what I do.
I have a question.
All right, okay. You, okay, what's up?
so this is the
Oh, it's great. Oh,
I think I can do it. Sometimes it doesn't work. I want to.
Well, you have to click.
I do because I. Oh, is there a better way to scroll around this thing? Down. Oh my, that's gonna save my life.
Little mouse click is a bliss.
So I want to delete this one.
Selected the whole thing.
What?
You gotta do it before.
This is so much better. So before, like the only
We
way I
have to zoom out and zoom
I was
in.
like zooming out.
Yeah,
zooming
that's
in.
how I was doing it.
Scroll up, zoom. Just put it out so it's not touching me. Just right there. That's good.
Oh, no.
Round to a box, select over that.
Still not showing up.
The one thing we gotta watch out for is zoom out for a second. So this was the original. You can just not suppress that.
Oh, we get it.
Yep, perfect. All right, any other questions? Yep. Okay, all right. You get any question answered? Question? Figured out. What's up?
I just want to make sure I can't move this guy around. So I can't do the wheel test.
I'm gonna call this,
Rud.
Oh, no.
what are we making?
Connected. Hey, there we go. All right.
Wait, did you rotate it?
Or right click.
Okay, it's have to rotate.
Questions? Naomi, what's up?
I think mine is still.
Yeah, but
Okay, let's go back to your control panel really quick.
It's not.
you want to touch my mouse too?
Not really.
And then actually figure out how to do the project.
Let's make it really quick. That might be- Yep.
Wait, really?
Talk about the next device.
No, we're doing. I like gossiping. It's fun.
Just okay, figuring it out.
Okay, other questions? Questions?
Did you ever go to Andy Monk's class last year? I'm not that is. So Andy Monk, he worked with Joe Lucio in the show. Oh, it was like his like, it wasn't like an actual class. It was just like show up and it was about equal. That's all we did in that class. So you're good at it? I'm very rusty.
Are you talking about Andy's
But hearing
class?
about all this stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, I remember this. My favorite part's coming up.
Still in fact.
I don't even know.
What this is like.
I'm just literally copying it. That's so good.
I should do one thing.
Like probably better than browsing. That's maybe
We didn't do it. Building one manually, we're building one.
It's like
I think that's what we're trying to do here. Make it easy for everyone.
I probably should bring the other one, something I use a lot. I don't know what I use a lot.
Yeah.
It's so nice having extra friends. Oh, yeah.
Resistor?
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, all we have.
Yeah.
Similar to the one.
Resistor has actually.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Not
got
on Mac.
Into years where I ran into they could
Yeah, like
this want to do
having just
kind of the same.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've got mine. This device is pretty good.
Yeah, it's got all sorts of.
We got the email ready. I'm gonna still read. Okay then.
You're okay now.
I'm gonna rush it right into. Oh, are you gonna go yeah,
Yeah, you don't want to have to spend any extra time for 2 pieces.
Exactly. So.
Alright, it's okay. I'm gonna take it.
Our guys are like.
What do you like to have time?
Your team's like,
Really?
Other questions?
See that after
Questions?
not recognizing my. I've seen too many green. My favorite, it's not much. This picture when I went to China and we're all standing there and I just gapped out into heads and it went up person that picture hanging in the Chinese hotel. So from our Chinese students, always want, thank you for coming to China. Chinese.
That may have been switched up.
All right, any other questions before we come back in?
Good luck.
All right, any questions? Anybody? All right, okay, let's do this.
Very much like this.
How powerful is this microphone? All right, okay, so is everybody ready to move on to actual board design? Woo! Okay, let's do it. Okay, we're gonna save this one more time, just to make sure we're saved. And then we're gonna go into the rabbit hole right here. This generates or switch to board. So we're gonna hit that once. It's gonna say, we don't have a board file. Do we want to create it from the schematic? Yes, we want to create it from the schematic. Hit yes. And it vomits your schematic onto the board. Hey, look at that. Question? Yes. All right, so we save it and then we click this button. And it's gonna say, are you sure you want to create the board file? And you say yes, and we jump in. All right.
What button did you click on for saving it?
Up here, it's this one. So it's gray and green on the schematic side, and it's gray and red on the board side. And it takes you back and forth.
Oh, cool.
Very nice. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is back to the grid. Okay, we're gonna turn it on, but here's a big problem. They have their grid set up as a 50 mil spacing. That's terrible because most devices have a 0.1. So that's 100 mil or 0.1 inches. So I hate mil. It's terrible. I don't know who came up with it, but we're drunk or something. Okay. All right. When you guys are ready, we're going to start moving stuff around.
Was that for both the few options?
Yes. Yeah. So this that's your alternate grid, and you'll see why it's important in just a second. But for now, we have 0.1 for the size for our normal grid and 0.01 inches for our alternate grid. And we turn it on. We turn on the display, I guess. Any other questions while I'm on the grid menu?
I was grid, it said unexpected error grid. Oh,
Did you type it right?
oh, grid.
Yeah, sorry. Golf, Romeo, India, Delta.
0.1 inches, right?
No, 0.1 inches for the size and 0.01 for the alternate. All right, so if you notice, this board is huge. It's like 6 inches wide and 3 inches tall. I don't care. I'm going to leave it this big for now because I want to size my board with some room to kind of move stuff around. Because I'm going to click the anchor point and sometimes you got to zoom in. And I'm going to hold that left button and I'm going to right click a couple times to get it oriented upright. And I'm just going to put it somewhere in there. Okay, so you guys remember back in like 240, we learned about ICs and you have pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're also labeled, which is kind of cool. And one of the reasons why we label things, even if it's really obvious, because it just helps you see it and looks better. Okay, there's only one IC here, so I'm just going to delete that just to save some clutter. But then going back to our schematic.
Question.
Yes.
Is it possible for you to move the board around?
It is possible to move the board. I would wait to move the board until you're ready. Because right now we're just kind of doing general layout. But that is a good question.
So,
I just, my board is like halfway.
Oh, I can give you help with that. Or just hit Control Z and it should move it back to where it was before. Yeah, you can't accidentally click this and move it around. And you're like, oh no, it looks ugly or it's like really bad and hard to work with. If you just grab one of those, you can kind of move it straight back out. All right, so one of the other things that I really don't like is they put the anchor point at like a weird spot, so it's like halfway between stuff. So I'm gonna hold the Alt key, and that's how you get to your alternate grid. You see I have a lot more resolution to move around here. I'm gonna put it so my pin hole is on the grid. That just makes it nice and easy later on when we start laying down wires. All right, I gotta move a little faster just so we get this all done in time, but anybody behind, does anybody need help or have questions right now? Okay, cool, all right. Back to our schematic, so we know that pin 3 is connected to resistor 1, and pin 2 is connected to resistor 2. So let's go find those really quick. Over here, we got resistor 1, oh, not the air wire, resistor 1. So I'm holding it and I'm scrolling with my other finger, and I'm going to hold my Alt key and put it right next to it, just like that. And then again, because this is offset, notice I had to hit escape. If I tried to move it now, the whole thing's highlighted and it would move the whole thing. So I hit escape, that way I can only move this name and I can just tuck it right inside just like that. And it might seem silly, but we can actually print silk screens in the shop. So when you're doing board layout, it's really nice so you know what resistors go where. Okay, so we're going to put resistor 1 next to pin 3 and resistor 2 next to pin 2. And new resistor 2 is tagged inside. All right, and that's just to shorten these lines because I know those are right next to each other anyway. And then I know resistor 3 is over here between resistor 1 and resistor 2. And if you notice, if I try and put it there, like the lines kind of intersect, so I'm just going to do a right click, but now they're crossed. I'm like, oh no, if I just right click 2 more times, they're the correct orientation. I'm going to set it a ways a little bit, and you'll see why in just a second, but it looks really pretty, so just trust me on that. A lot of board layout is, once you get past the functional, a lot of board layout is just aesthetics. They just want it to look good, and be easy to use and intuitive. So we're going to try and keep that as best we can. Okay, so we put this op amp, we put resistor 1, 2, and 3. Then we need our resistor 4 and our BJT T1. So resistor 4, let's go and place that. Before we place our resistor 4, let's place T1. So T1 we know connects to pin 1. So we know we're going to want that close up. Sometimes the anchor points are hard to find. You just got to keep digging around until you get it. And I'm going to use my alternate grid so I can place it just like that. Kind of get it close. It's not exact, but it's close. And T1 I'm going to get rid of because we all know that's a transistor. We're all smart here. All right. Now I'm going to place resistor 4. And if we notice, I'm upside down. Flip that around a bit and place it on using my alternate grid. And then place that tag inside. Okay, so we're halfway done with our component layout. Any questions so far? I feel like we might have a lot. Yeah, question?
I think my grid is wrong. My stuff's not lining up right.
All right, let's check this out real quick. Press Alt. Press Alt. Oh, that helps when you're doing the alternate grid.
Yeah, so like this one. So like if I pick this, I can't get it like.
Oh yeah, hold the Alt or the Option key.
So is that how I'm supposed to set everything in?
No, that's just how I like to do it, so I get it on the grid. Once you place it once on the grid, you don't have to use the Alt key.
So is this on the grid?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. So you put the dots on the grid.
Yes, exactly. And I space them out apart. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yes.
So it looks like he did 2 different ICs.
Yes. Super good question. Which we already covered last week, real quick. So we have IC. So IC2. Oh, IC3. Ooh. It's IC2. Okay, so we're going to have to delete this. And this one, we're going to invoke. And that lets us place the second half. And then this guy is also probably going to be honest. We have to delete him. And we're going to invoke the power rail. Now let me save this. Go back to our schematic. Just a single object. Okay, any other questions?
Sure.
Question? Yeah, question. You're what? Sorry? Yes, okay. Excellent question. So these yellow these yellow wires are called air wires. They just go to the nearest connection. So if you have a lot of things connected to ground, then multiple, like there are multiple arrangements that would satisfy that requirement. I'll talk about that in just a second, but that's a really good question.
But it's not a problem.
It's not a problem. No, don't worry about it. Any other questions? You can't select anything? Oh, no, it's your points disappeared. Okay. It looks like, scroll down here for a second. All the way down. Oh. Now all of your values. Yeah, sometimes Eagle is a little funny, and actually, it looks like your graphics are kind of messed up. Talk to me afterwards, and I'll help you make it so. Because right now, you know, it's like supersized. Yeah. I'll show you how to reset that. So yeah, if your graphics are messed up and it's like really huge, let me know. There is a way to fix it, and Eagle is a lot more enjoyable when you can see all the buttons. Kind of nice. Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Right click. So you have to pull, like, do a left click first. So you can move around. Looks like you got that little crosser right in the middle. Okay, now try dragging it around. And now right click. Oh, while you're sorry. All right, any other questions? No? All right, okay, we got half an hour left. This might be a little tight, but we will get it done. Okay. All right, now for the other side. Okay, R5 is to 5, R6 is to 6, R7 is between them. So I'm going to get a little quieter and a little faster. So R5, we know we want connected to R5. All right, and if you guys have questions while I'm working, interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume that you guys. All right, so I forgot what your name was in the back with the glasses and the gray shirt and the yellow hair. But you had a question about air wires and if they were going to the wrong spot. One of the really cool things, we all know we hate bad wiring jobs, rat's nests, as they're called. This comes with the rat nest command. So rat's nest will rearrange your wires so you know exactly what's supposed to be connected to what. So for instance, before I thought that R5 was in the correct orientation, turns out it wasn't. I thought this R6 was. And it looks like it was anyway. Okay. But that sometimes it looks like your things are connected to what they're not supposed to be connected to. Try using rat's nest before you lose too much hope. But typically I don't do it until I've made a lot of progress. Otherwise it doesn't look like anything has been done. Okay. I'm gonna put that resistor down. That transistor down there. I'm gonna put this resistor up here like that. Yes, question.
If we have 2 chip slots, then
probably. It sounds like if you go back to your schematic, this one should be ICB1 or IC1B, and this one should be IC1A. If you have a 2 in there, it sounds like you need to replace your op amp. Do you have that problem?
So you delete the component and then.
Yes, delete the component and then use the invoke command, and you can pull up the second component, the second version. All right, anybody else have that issue? Nice, okay. Any other questions? Generic questions, hard questions, unrelated questions?
Oh my goodness.
So what? I'm confused.
So one of the part of your.
Oh, but those are. Yeah. Okay, so did it fix itself? It looks like it did. Oh. I see. Okay, yeah. Yeah. All right, so that's fine. It updated your part of it. So no, so there's only one op amp. So it's a dual op amp package. There are two op amps inside it. Yeah. All right, any other questions before we move on?
Do we need to do the rat's nest thing?
Yes, rat's nest would help. Just type in rat's nest or click the rat's nest button, which is right. Yeah, okay, right here, rat's nest. Hey.
What does it do for you when you click it?
Huh?
Does it fix anything?
Yeah, so rat's nest. So for instance, so before I had rat's nest, if you look up on the screen, R7 should be connected to R6, and it doesn't look like it is. When I run rat's nest, it reconfigures the optimal path and says, "Oh yeah, that's right, it's connected." Does that help answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, anyways.
Okay, notice you can also use box select inside the board realm. I don't know what you want to call it. So I'm going to offset it just a little bit.
It's like a, doesn't matter that much, but why do we put R8 there instead of like beneath the op amp or something like that? Since it goes between transistors.
Why do we put it inside it?
Yeah, because it connects to R4 and P2, right? So why don't we put it like more in between? Or is it just preference?
R8?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just preference. Just, it looks better and it's easier to connect. That's just because I've made the circuit like 3 or 4 times now.
Okay.
So you don't know that yet. But if you were to design it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I should move that in there. Like I said, a lot of this, it looks kind of hairy right now. If I run rat's nest again though, kind of cleans itself up. Okay, it still looks sort of ugly, but don't worry, we're almost there. Okay, if you notice, I have a V1 out, V1 plus, and V1 minus. I'm gonna box select so I can move all of those at the same time. And just set them right here for now. And then I'm going to move V2, so it's next to its V2 brethren. Box select over V2s. Zoom back out, zoom back in. Right click, and I'm just going to set them there for now. I'm going to move that later. And finally, we have our ground and our VN pin. All right, okay. Once you're here or feel comfortable, raise your hand. Or if you're not here and you're not comfortable, raise your hand. Anybody stuck?
Not there yet.
Anybody, Hollis, do you have a question? Okay. Is anybody stuck right now? No? Is anybody, okay, so who is here and waiting for the next step? One person, awesome job.
No, yeah.
Okay, 2 people. Woo, we're getting there. Opus, is that a hand? Not quite.
I have a question.
Yes, question.
It says
What's
that
up?
it can't perform the requested action.
Sounds like you're trying to do something.
That's what happens if you leave it, if you like try to move it and drop it outside of the grid.
Yeah, so you have to, when you drop a part, it should be on board.
Okay, because the V2, my V2 is not next to my other V2.
Oh, that's fine, yeah, so just put it where you want it to be eventually. All right, any other questions? Questions?
Which path do you place where?
Good question. So again, why we label it, even though the pad is right there. So this side is my V1 side, so I put my V1 minus, my V1 plus, and my V1 out. Those are crossed though, if you notice, so I'm going to rearrange that just a little bit. And I'm going to make it pretty. Why? Because I can. It looks cool. That one up there. Yeah, there we go. And over here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I have V2 plus, V2 minus, and V2 out. So V2 out. Put there. V2 minus. I'll do V2 plus. All right. And if you notice, again, rat's nest, as I continue to move parts around and kind of massage it, this took probably half an hour before I got here, so don't feel like you have to know immediately where things go. A lot of this is trial and error. It's moving parts around and being like, okay, what's the shortest path and the cleanest like orientation of all these things. That being said, going way back to Dr. Schultz's schematic, we need V3, or sorry, we need R3, or this resistor between V plus and V minus to be very close together because that's a high current path. So if you notice, I have that R3 close to V1 minus and V1 plus, and I have R7 close to V2 minus and V2 plus. I think Paulus kind of asked a question about that earlier, why I didn't put that in a different spot. That's why. Or at least that's for R7. For R8, it's just because it looks better that way. I feel like it's more aesthetic. Okay. So this is kind of what I have now. It just looks so ugly. Let's see if we can move that up a little bit. That just looks so much better. That is very tight. We're going to move it up just here. No, we got this. We can do this. Yeah, we'll make it fit. Maybe. Okay, so who's ready? Question.
Which ones?
Sorry?
Hey, Michael, so like the R2 and R2 and R1, what the transistor does on top of the which one is it?
That's transistor 1 in my case, because in my schematic, transistor 1 is connected to pin 1, and transistor 2 is connected to pin 7. So I have transistor 1 next to pin 1, and transistor 2 is sort of close to pin 7. No. That's an excellent question. Why don't I take this guy? Oh, that's why. I guess if you go like that. Yeah, that's probably better, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Round nest on that? Yeah, that looks way better. Except for now you need to switch R8. Hey, now we're cooking. Okay. Yes, Ivan, sorry.
Go back to your drawn schematic. V plus goes to 8.
Yep. All right, is anybody not here yet that wants to be? Naomi, do you have a question or you just get there?
I don't think so. What is it that you just changed though?
What?
Oh, you just changed where the transistor was?
Yeah, I just moved the transistor up to the top just because that kind of cleans up my wiring a little bit.
Okay.
Because I want to try and keep my footprint as minimal as possible, while also making it pretty intuitive to use. So if you notice, I have V1 out, V1 minus, and V1 plus. Over here, I want to keep something similar. So I have V2 out, V2 plus, and V2 minus. So it's just kind of flipped. And then I just try to keep the board as small and compact as possible. Now that we have it laid out. Alejandro, yes.
Yeah, so you have, I have 2 ICs on my board now, like the one with 14 inch.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of it?
It sounds like on your schematic, you forgot to delete your op amp when you copied it. So make sure that this one is I1 or IC1A and this one is IC1B. You probably have an IC1A and an IC2A.
Oh,
Double check that. And then, so what you'll have to do is you'll have to delete IC2A, invoke invoke and move it over and copy. Yeah, okay. All right, any other questions? We are running out of time, but we are almost there.
How do you do
The rat's nest, you just type rat, or you use the rat's nest button over here. All right, any other questions before we move on to the coolest part, or almost coolest part? Routing, all right. Okay, so we're gonna type in route.
You say route, right?
Yes, route, as in ROUTE, Romeo, Oscar, Uniform, Tango, Echo, or the route air wire over here. So all of these yellow lines that we've been seeing, they're not wires per se, they're more reminders. Alice, question? Up here, yep.
Yeah, does that come from like one of the rail thing where you had a ground and you put something on there? Is that where that came from?
Yes. Yeah, so I power rail, I just put an alligator clip right there. Or because I have these air wires, you could put one there, or you could put one over there. They're all connected, so it'll all be the same. All right, any other questions? That was a good one. Anybody else?
Sir, you said, how do you spell the
Route, R is in Romeo, O is in Oscar, U is in Uniform, T is in Tango, E is in Echo. Yep, that's it, route. Or this button over here, route air wires. All right. This is sort of more particular to the shop. So we technically do double-sided boards, but they're really a huge pain, so I don't recommend them. I like to have everything on the bottom layer and all my components, all of my traces on the bottom layer and all my components on the top layer. So I'm going to shift my layer to the bottom, and then it's just really poor practice to have 90-degree angles in your traces. So make sure that on your wire bend, you go from 90 to this offset angle. And then trace width. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I'm going to do a 20 mil trace. That can handle over 2 amps, and it's just a nice, generous looking trace. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, and then we start. So you click one, you go to the other, and that's it. And basically, a lot of this is just following. Oh dear. Oh, no. It's just following like lines and getting those to connect in a way that you like. I'm going to go from this guy to here and over there.
How do you get there? Is it trace?
Route.
Well,
Right here, route air wire. So just to recap, route, select your layer to the bottom, select your wire bend to the 45-degree angle, and change your wire width to 0.02 or 20 mils. No, oops. Okay, and then it's really just a matter of clicking and connecting. So connect, connect. Ta-da, makes you feel like you're doing something, which is kind of nice.
Is there like an auto route function?
There is, however, it does a terrible job. I do not recommend it. That's just me. Oh dear, I need to switch these. So I'm going to escape out of route. Move that up, move that in. Ooh. Oh, move that one down. That one up. Hey, there we go. I like that a lot better. Okay. Back to routing. So you are free to use auto route. Just keep in mind it will include vias and double-sided boards, and it will just make a mockery of the art. Also, like I said, it's just really terrible. So I don't recommend it. Okay, so you can see our board is kind of taking shape here. If you notice, that's one of the reasons why I like having my my connections on the grid, is it makes it really easy for you to like do wire tracing, because otherwise it's really hairy really quick. And that's gross. Also, I just generally hold my Alt key while I'm working. Yes, question, sorry.
The question I want to do, I'm having a hard time moving my alligator.
Having a hard time moving your alligator? Oh, let's get a seat. Let's try right quick and right in the middle. Oh, good question. Okay. I'm sorry, what was your name again? You come to the shop a couple times. Daniel? All right, okay, Daniel has a really good question. So If I want to move my alligator clip, but there's a trace in the way, it's not going to let me select that. So what you do is you right click and you can cycle through which thing you want to click. So right now I want to click that one. I'm going to leave it highlighted and it allows me to move whatever's highlighted. If I wanted to move the trace instead, I would just hit next until the trace is highlighted and then it will let me move the trace. So right click where the anchor is and that will let you select the object beneath it. Okay, so I have one trace left. And get there. Sneaky. And okay, so I could leave this, but that's a little close to that middle leg. So I'm just going to alternate click and just drag it down just a little bit. Okay, so if you guys have noticed, I've left the ground pins unrouted. That was not by accident. That's because the very last step is laying the ground plane. Okay, so when you guys are, who's not here yet and wants to be? A lot of questions. Okay, who has questions, I guess? How do you unroute? You can either use the rip tool, rip up right here, rip up, or you can use the delete key. The delete works just as well. All right, any other questions? Who has questions? Who's just going slow? That's cool too. Yeah, Daniel, what's up?
I'm trying to do the next one. I don't see.
All right, so there's nothing underneath it. So try just right clicking a little offset. Like try right clicking there and hold it. You have to hold it.
Right click, right click.
You want to click right there. Oh, there's. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
It's all routed. What did you do?
Well, your name is.
All right.
How do you say it? It's broken.
Oh, rather.
I don't know, I can't delete this thing. Because I just rotated a bunch of stuff.
What class is this?
Or electronics. 446. Yeah, and I don't know.
Do you turn on your friend?
I think so.
I'm taking 240
Yeah.
20 right now.
Why did the display on?
It's my very first double leaf.
So you just don't want to do one yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, then once you're done, you're just waiting right now.
Which classes would you say are like the real weeders? Out of the
See how what about you have to do different like
pre-production?
Oh, that's why your anchor point is all the way over here.
Alright.
So.
You had to take 235, right?
Wired?
Doesn't sound.
It signs 235.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you guys have a question? So we're just looking, what the task was gathered.
Oh, yeah.
You're here, or you cannot.
Yeah.
You see, bro, shut up. I just see why you're so good at it.
Not what I.
Slept at home.
No, because
I've heard the benefits. Either way.
It's like the more classes that I took, like.
That's how you get blessings, right?
It's like.
We'll see how it goes, because I didn't like taking the DS classes, but I hardly remember anything from DS 235. I took that before my mission and got back 2 months ago. I don't know, I'm just still feeling out this major. I stick with
My computer
starts to
be a picture.
while you were talking.
Okay, who else has questions? Questions? Oh, yeah. What's up?
Yeah, so
Like texted my.
Oh, so that's it's really small. 1 inch.
a lot of people say that
Because you set that.
the average.
Auto updates for it. It's really dumb.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Questions?
Question.
Question.
Looking at yours, and I can't figure out how.
You never responded.
This is the mouse pad, sorry.
I start my junior core in fall. So I'm just curious, is like.
Right now.
Oh.
That's crazy, dude.
I just don't know what's. Oh, that's the difference. I just couldn't tell what yours were. Okay, that makes total sense.
Okay, any other questions? Hollis. Yes.
Graduate. Yeah, you're gonna graduate. That's like.
Anywho, thanks, I appreciate it.
Like, don't like it? Or like,
Just like. I think I want.
Looks like you have 2 feature pens. All right, any other questions before we finish up?
Could you zoom in on your pins on the left-hand side and then your right?
Yes.
We're hoping so.
So my pins over here are V2, V1 out, V1 minus, and V1 plus. And then my pins over here are V2 out, V2 minus, V2 plus. Question?
So, who's about? Do I make that step?
Where was it?
Oh, way to go. I'm not there yet. I'm having struggles. Mike, you got ground? You got ground and then what's the?
VN or VCC or whatever. you want to call it.
I'm at the top of it.
Yes.
I really don't know.
We're running short on time. If you guys are almost done, but you don't feel like you can finish, come to the ELC tomorrow. I work there full time. It's my job. I'm there with Joe. We hang out. It's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We can help. Okay. I'm going to make this a little easier. I normally don't do labeling until the end, but just to clear things up,
That would be.
I'm going to label these as
Save this within the last like.
How do you invert?
Have you ever had your words pop up backwards?
yes, it probably means you're on the bottom layer instead of the top layer. Michael, how are you doing text? How are you doing text? I'll show that in just a second. I'm just trying to label this so people can follow along a little better. Sorry, I'm just trying to lay this out so people can follow along a little better.
Didn't we do everything on the bottom?
Yes, we did.
And then when you labeling, you go back to the top?
Yes, labeling should be on the top. All right, okay, so last thing, and then I'll answer questions. This is the last thing you really need to know, is laying out your ground plane. So it uses the polygon tool. And you need to change this back to bottom, if you're not there, and change this back to 90 degrees. I'm going to select there, and there, and I'm going to connect that polygon together. And then it looks for a signal name. This is a ground plane, so we're going to call it ground. And we see the dashed line. We're going to run rat's nest one more time. Ta-da! There's a circuit board. Okay, there are a couple things that are still wrong with this. First, this clearance is way too small. I'm sorry I'm going really quick, but I just want to get through this for everybody. That way you guys can watch it on Zoom later. We're going to go up to our DRC. We're going to go to clearance. And we're going to set our clearance to 15 mil. That's just because that's what the shop can handle. I'm going to run rat's nest one more time, and all my traces kind of pop out a little bigger. All right. That's pretty much it. All that's left to do is hit escape a bunch of times. Move that down. And then move that down. And this is really ugly. Normally I would go in and make that pretty by right clicking here. Go to properties and make that a real number like 2 and 0.75 and 0.75. Now I gotta change that too. Nope. Next. Yeah, properties. 2. Oh, 2 is big enough. No. Oh. All right, okay, so we finished. Now I can answer questions for the last 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to start at the front room and go back because I have no idea whose hands are up in what order. Okay, what's up? Polygon. So the second polygon, or it's over right there. Over to your left, from there, right there. And you just draw a box around it and label it. Okay, good question. Question. Okay. So he's gonna. I promise I'll go back. Okay.
Did the ground thing?
It doesn't look like you have any issues in there though.
Is that fine?
No. Yeah, you don't need the ground plane to extend across the whole thing. It just needs to connect all the ground pins together. Good question. The last question is shrinking the board so it's just around where you work. Otherwise you have a huge board.
What's the one where it's
Oh, the DRC.